Newsflash, this is the number one problem that we have conflict over in our relationship. Last year on the bestseller list, a marriage counselor put out a book, and he described the number one sign that your relationship could be in danger of failing.
I didn't know that. I am also interested to know what is that.
So I'm going to interrupt this broadcast and tell a joke. It's a joke about a farmer and an animal.
Welcome back to another episode of Fly Me to the Philippines. Hello, everybody. Today is another day, and today we are going to talk a very relevant issue here in the Philippines.
We've seen so many videos on YouTube in the last 30 days. Everybody is watching these videos about a famous YouTube couple that broke up in Dramageddon or Dumageddon, Philippines. We haven't really commented on it, and we're not going to comment on another person's relationship, but we want to talk today about what is the cause of some of these breakups between couples in the Philippines. And also, Chrissy, there's a Facebook posting from Philippine Expats, a group of 92,000 members from a year ago, where a gentleman wrote in and kind of was a little bit bitter about age gap relationships, and he caught a lot of flack and he got a lot of feedback. I want to just tease a little bit of that out first before we get to, what do we have here? We have the 10 reasons why age gap relationships can sometimes fail.
In the other glass are the 11 negative communication styles.
We're going to go ahead and mention those at the end, so stay tuned for that. Here you go, Chrissy. Cheers. There's a lot of negativity in this glass. In January of last year, on the Facebook group Philippine Expats, 92,000 subscribers, James, one of the top contributors, wrote in this post, and it caught my attention, and I saved it, and I never really brought it on camera before, but today I think it's relevant. Let's just read a little bit of that first. James writes, "A lot of you are just fooling yourselves about the Philippines and a Filipina. Sure, they speak English, and some fairly well. However, they don't think in English, and they think in Filipino." Is that true? You told me this morning, I asked you, you said, no, you think in English.
Yeah, it started when I met you online. You know, like we speak a lot through online, and then it also affects how you think in reality. There will be no translation process that will happen.
James says, sure, they will change over time, but slowly, and you need a great deal of patience. On the other hand, you will never be happy, he says. Wow, he's a real downer. And it will lead to a breakup if nothing changes and you can't accept what will be. He says, I've seen so many videos and read so many stories about Filipina scammers. Well, that's true. We've seen a lot of stories.
Yeah.
I will admit that I have been scammed more than once, but nothing that I couldn't walk away from. He says, but actually, most of these scam stories are not Filipina scammers. What does he mean? But cultural differences. The Filipino you love and send money to, who is constantly broke and needs more and more, may not actually be a scammer. She truly does love you, but she loves her family more. Too often, they are pressed from all sides by family members, asking for money. There is always an emergency because no one plans for tomorrow in the Philippines. Trying to teach her to save and plan ahead is like talking to a wall. It doesn't sink in. It goes into one ear and out of the other. So that cute Filipina you have been sending money to for rent and food, and you always include a little extra, is always broke before the next month, isn't necessarily a scammer. Most likely she is not, but you are not first in her life. Even if you think you are first, she is under control of her parents, even when she is an adult. Also, she may have a few extra pesos in her pocket, but she has a Western boyfriend. She must treat all of her friends to food and drinks or face the criticism that she really doesn't have a boyfriend or he is just as broke as their Filipino boyfriends. So why are you in love with that fat old dude with no money? So she will enjoy today with her friends and family, as hope all for tomorrow you will send her money. He says, well, I have said enough and will get a lot of negative feedback, but there is a lot of truth in what I am saying, and no, it doesn't apply to all Filipinos. Well, Chrissy, we're going to read a couple of comments. He got 250 plus comments. Many Filipinas wrote in and had a word to say to him. What's your initial reaction?
Well, you know, there are a lot of lucky and unlucky foreign men here in the Philippines, and luckily he's one of them. He's one of those unlucky ones.
You think he's trying to draw a trend line through one point of data, maybe?
you know what he's saying is also very important, and it is something that you need to watch for. Like, if there's like a similarity of his situation, maybe it's time to ponder and think about it. Like, we have the same situation, I could have the same result.
It's so interesting to me that when people are struggling and they haven't quite found the right one yet,
Yeah.
it's a really negative experience up until it isn't.
Yeah.
For you as a woman, before we met, what did it feel like?
Well, dating online sucks. Before I met you, there's a lot of like fake promises. They will just let you had a little feelings, but then after that, they will just ghost you, or they will just say, I'm going, bye.
So it's not fun for the women or the men until they really think they found the right one. And even then, you know, you can have these endorphins firing off in your bloodstream, and the first 3-6 months, even up to a year, you know, the physicality of the relationship could overwhelm you and cloud your judgment. We're going to talk about the things that kind of get in the way of relationships and the types of communication that become really bothersome for a relationship.
And the reasons why even those married couples breaks up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see some of the comments. Tim writes, when a person dates or marries someone from another culture, there's going to be a lot of compromise, mostly on his part, and a lot of things will frustrate and in some cases amuse. The easy thing is remarrying in your own culture. But as they say, the grass always looks greener on the other side. I say this as a guy married to a Filipina for around 13 years. Not bitter, just truthful. There were so many comments. I didn't want to read them all. But here, you know, Philip says a lot of great comments defending Filipinas that I didn't really read. He says, I married one 8 years ago, and at 62, never been happier. She's not materialistic, loyal, and family-oriented.
There will be disadvantage of being family-oriented too.
Michael writes, the reason you will get well-deserved negative feedback, and he got a lot, is that you generalize from your limited experience. That's that trend line through one data point. Sample to an entire culture and an entire country. Yes, situations such as those you described do exist. Conversely, so do other situations, such as mine, in which the wife is fluent in English, a degreed professional, and whose family we have not given anything. There are as many variations on this theme as there are Filipino foreigner partnership. So, Chrissy, you know, one of the reasons I think we wanted to do this video is like we've noticed how many vloggers have made videos about separation, divorce that happened in Dumaguete. And I think it can put people off and make them wonder if they should try because there's a chance of failure.
Yeah, you know, if this couple, they were followed by a lot of people, they became an inspiration of living here in the Philippines, marrying a Filipina, but then that couple failed their relationship. So it really affects.
Nobody really knows why. They haven't really put a pin in it, right?
There's no really like a solid reason why did it happen. So that's why today we are going to talk about the possible and yet very common reasons here in the Philippines why couples, especially Filipina foreigner couple, break up.
So let's go through our glasses. The first one are the reasons. We have 10 here, and they're in no particular order. The reasons why age gap relationships in the Philippines can sometimes fail and leave a bitter person like our commenter, right?
And this couple that's sitting right here in front of you guys aren't exempt.
No, we're not immune.
Exemption.
Right.
You know, like all of these. It's
a living, breathing relationship.
I think all of these here listed here, I'm the one who's writing it here.
You wrote them down.
I think we experienced it.
Is my name on any of them? Okay. Number one, communication barriers, fluency, humor, and the style of resolution. I've always said sarcasm is a really tricky thing.
Yeah.
And when you first meet somebody, humor is a risky bet. It could work, but if it doesn't work, it hurts you bad.
There are a lot of humor from the West that aren't fun here in the Philippines. And instead of being funny, you're like insulting the Filipinos with your humor. So that's very important thing for you to know, that not all humors that you will bring from the West will work here in the Philippines. And also, Filipinos, sometimes they will make jokes to the Western man, and then they will just literally translate the Filipino words to English, and then it will turn out to be not good.
So I'm going to interrupt this broadcast and tell a joke.
Oh no! Please no.
I play cards every Monday, and there are 10 of us, and I don't know why, but somebody was talking about comedians who are just crazy funny, and the name Buddy Hackett came up, who's been dead for like 20 years. And one of the guys went on YouTube in between games and played 3 Buddy Hackett jokes. And one of them I'm going to tell. It's a joke about a farmer and an animal. So this guy goes out for a drive. He's on the highway. He's doing 35 miles an hour. He's enjoying the day, and he looks in his rearview mirror, and there's a chicken running up the road behind him, and it's sort of catching up to him, and it pulls right up to his window, 35 miles an hour. He looks over, and the chicken has 3 legs. And next thing you know, the chicken accelerates. It's doing about 50 miles an hour, and goes up ahead, turns left down a dirt road. The guy says, I got to see what's going on. This is the craziest thing ever. He gets to the dirt road. He turns left. He goes about a mile, and he comes to a farmhouse. And there's a farmer with a pitchfork standing in front of a bunch of chickens. And he says, what in the world's going on? There was a 3-legged chicken that ran past me, accelerated 50 miles an hour, turned. What? He says, yep, I'm raising 3-legged chickens. He says, what in the world would you need a 3-legged chicken for? Farmer says, well, when you eat a chicken, you enjoy a drumstick. He said, yes, I do. He says, and your missus, does she enjoy a drumstick? He said, absolutely. She loves the drumstick. Well, have you ever had a guest and there wasn't a 3rd drumstick? And he says, well, it's happened. So he said, there you go. That's why I'm making 3-legged chickens. The guy who drove the car, he says, okay, I understand. But what do they taste like? The farmer says, I don't know. I've never caught one. And then, what do you think? Style of resolution. Well, I always say don't go to bed angry. Rule number 1, don't live in a house where you allow someone to go to bed angry. Okay. And both people have to commit to that.
Yeah, and Filipinas, they are not too verbal. They are more like in actions than, saying words than this. So you will think that Filipina are still mad at you, but when she cook you food, it means she's not that mad at you. If she's mad at you, she will let you starve.
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
But you don't want to get to that point where you have to wait for her to make you food. You really want to not go to bed angry. Okay.
Okay, so generational gaps. First is technology, parenting, and more.
Parenting is a very interesting thing. Here in the Philippines, children sleep with adults or parents until they're 7, 8 years old. As a Westerner, it's like ridiculous. At 3 weeks, the baby sleeps alone. Well, here, it's considered cruel and unusual punishment.
Yes, it's very cruel. Like 3-month-old baby, you will not let that sleep alone in one room.
What about a 6-year-old, 7-year-old child?
Same, because they still need they need to feel protected. They still need the warm body of the mother.
Well, CJ's about to turn 6, and he's chosen to sleep alone. We're very proud of him.
Yeah, started.
Now we have a friend Ivan, and he was in this video, and he told us at golf on last Thursday that he was taking a nap on the couch. He lives up in the province, and he was up on the couch, and he felt the cat kind of stir and woke him, and he looked down at his thigh, and there was a cobra wrapped around his leg. Now we're calling him El Cobrito. Our friend Ivan is now El Cobrito. So maybe that's why parents don't want to let the kids sleep alone.
Yeah, I think when we say technology, it's not really the technology, but it is the social media. Yeah, like when you have a generational gap.
Good point. Here's the biggest problem. Okay, you are going to be dating a 25-year-old, and she is going to be on TikTok, and she's going to be on Reels, and she is going to be, her attention span is about 12 seconds. And like me, I love social media. I watch YouTube all the time, but I just don't watch shorts.
Okay, nice.
All right. Immigration, long distance stress. In order to maintain a relationship, sometimes you got to go through these LDRs. You got a lot of separation. If the Filipino works and has a family, she doesn't have enough time, or she has no job and wants to spend 5 hours a day on video, knowing where you are, what you did in the bathroom. Was it a 1.5? She wants to know everything that you're doing, and it's too much. That can add stress for people that are in these long-distance relationships.
Especially if you're planning to bring your Filipina to the West and settle down in the West, there will be a lot of paperwork to do. It is not an ideal situation for lovers, couples, or even married couple, because distance can really create a gap as well of your relationship. So LDR, long distance relationship, could lead to breakup.
Okay, that's my turn. Is it not?
Okay.
I don't know. There's a conflict. Lifestyle mismatches, different energy levels, hobbies, and social
Social.
activities. Is one person just getting old and tired and they like to sit around and watch TV? Does the other person like to spend hours on TikTok and social media? Does one person want to golf? Does one person want to scuba? Is one person into skydiving? Does one person drink and the other person's a teetotaler? What do you think?
Yeah, it could lead to like misunderstanding, mismatches, and then breakup. You know, like if you're Filipina, really want to go clubbing, partying, drinking with friends because that's that's her
Red
hobby.
flag, red flag.
That's her hobbies. That's her social activity, and then you don't like it, and you're not gonna let her go with that.
It's very controlling. Because you might. Either you're controlling because you don't want her to do it, or you're fooled because she's just going to hang out with 25-year-old Filipinas at the disco, and nothing good can come from that.
Two things that could happen when there's conflict. It's either you can resolve the conflict or you will break up.
Yeah, if it doesn't break the relationship, it can make it stronger. Yeah. Okay, let's see what else we got.
Lack of genuine
Connection.
only depends on financial. Let's say the Filipino only depends on financial and the Western man only depends on attraction.
We always talk about these 5-hour car rides where the two people have nothing to talk about.
Yeah, we've been asked these questions before, like, what if you fall in love with a man with money? He's not good looking with money, and then suddenly he will go broke. And you just love him because of his money. Then
what if the woman gains 50 kilos?
Yes, that's it too. Like, what if you like my weight, you like my body, this and that. But who knows? Like 5 years from now, I could go bigger and this and that, and have this
or medical problems can come along.
Yeah, so who knows? So if you're just in love with me because of attraction, then
I think you need to become best friends. And if you're not best friends, then you're going to have trouble. In order to maintain a relation, it involves a lot of compromise.
Yeah, you should have this strong emotional connection to each other.
Okay, let's see. Family pressure, expectations, and interference. This is really big. I did this video on 12 stages of an obstacle course or like a video game levels. And even after you determine the woman is pure of heart and you get along, now you got to find out if her family members are a train wreck. And if they exert undue influence and they can't stop grinding on your Filipina, the stress it can put on a relationship is really, it could be a reason to break up.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned, that being family-oriented, there is also like a downside of that. Next, unrealistic expectations. Expectation of foreign man to Filipina, being submissive, etc. And expectation of Filipina to the man to have a luxurious life.
Yeah, I think that...
it will be a conflict.
I think it's a conflict. Filipinas are not as pliable and submissive as people think. They are sweet and they don't do much confrontation. And I think they're quite get along.
So what's your expectation about me that wasn't that you thought about? I mean, you're expecting me to be this, but I'm not.
I think I expected you to be less defensive. And, my friend's comment, he says, when you push on a Filipina, they can be vengeful and aggressive towards you. I didn't see that in you when we first met. And sometimes, like when we're editing and I know you made a mistake, you don't, it's a little bit like, not what I expected to respond. It's just I'm giving feedback. The meatballs came cold. It's like we go to restaurants, they bring the coffee ice cold and Chrissy doesn't want to let anybody know. It's like, don't tell them. You know what I mean? So giving feedback, it creates a defensiveness maybe that I just wasn't expecting. Yeah.
Okay. Next.
Cultural differences, norms, traditions, communication styles, lifestyle, and habits.
Your jokes are not fun.
Yeah, and talk Filipino. You don't eat three-legged chicken. But there is a lot of superstitions that are kind of weird. Like it's raining right now. And like if I go walk in the rain, it's beautiful temperature. If I just want to go out and walk in the rain and get a little wet, Chrissy will be scared to death.
Yeah, like, you could get sick. And, here in the Philippines, we grew up believing that. And, we have different norms, we have different beliefs. So it could be a conflict sometimes. Like other people mentioned that if the other one wants to travel, but the partner is a homebody, then, you will need to have a long talk about it.
Jealousy, insecurity, and age gap. Getting too much attraction from others. Fear. Well, Newsflash, this is the number one problem that we have conflict over in our relationship.
Yeah, the jealousy.
And I think if I brought you to America, we would have a role reversal and I would be overly jealous and it might bother you. But here in the Philippines, you're the one who often is jealous. And a good example is, the person who usually drives me up into the mountains an hour to play golf is out of town. And this week, I have no transportation if I don't rent a car, but there's a golf course 3 miles away. It's a little bit more expensive, but they have female caddies. And Chrissy, what do you have to say about that?
Not ideal.
Not ideal. So, and I'm like, it never even occurred to me. Now, I played there 2 weeks ago, and I prefer to play with my regular caddy. It just, when I investigated switching for a week or two until my friend got back, it never crossed my mind that there were female caddies. But for Chrissy, it drew some alarm.
Yeah.
And it creates a little bit of conflict because I want to play golf and Chrissy doesn't want me hanging around with a woman for 5 hours.
I didn't say no. I just said it's not ideal.
Yeah. Anyway, we don't want to go too deep on that.
Yeah, it's just like me having this, maybe a show around for 6 hours and then it's just me and the taxi driver.
Yeah. Well, that used to bother me quite a bit. And they would chat you up all the time until I learned a few words of the local language.
Okay. Financial disputes, disagreements of sending money to the family, and budgeting.
I think this is the number one thing between foreigners and their Filipinas, because the Filipina, they can have a huge extended family. We help the family as we can. We've received some criticism because I've, have your family members doing tasks I'd have to pay for otherwise. But I think this is the number one reason. When you read all these Facebook postings, that's what people kind of talk about.
Yeah, there's a lot. But in our relationship, I don't think that it's... Did we fight because of budgeting?
No, because it was really always my idea. You never, suggested the ideas. You never asked me. I didn't have to promise eventually I would do these things.
It was just 4 days ago when my friends and I were talking about how important money is in the marriage and how important is loyalty and faithfulness and, trust with each other and your love with each other more than anything in the world. And I think based on our discussion, it turned out to be loyalty, faithfulness, and love is more important than money. Yeah. And they were Filipinas,
All Filipinos. That's good feedback. So now we're going to transition real quick. Stick with us. We're going to share with you the number one sign that the best-selling book from last year said is a warning sign that your current relationship might be in trouble. But before that, we're going to run through these really quick for the sake of time.
I didn't know that. I am also interested to know what is that. So after all those possible conflicts and reasons for breaking up, here are some negative communication styles.
Let's go through them real quick.
Lack of active listening.
Yeah, if you're not paying attention when your partner's trying to make you aware of something, this is a real problem.
It happened to us.
Well, it happens to everybody. You could be preoccupied. Sometimes you're just finishing up writing an email. Escalation, I always call it double down, And sometimes, when you press on a Filipina, they will escalate and you're not expecting it.
There's a lot of examples about escalations in when you have this, conflict. Oops. Blaming.
Well, anytime you just assign blame to another party and you don't take responsibility for some of the problem, it takes two to tangle. So keep an eye on blaming. Invalidation. This is a big one. When, everybody's allowed to have feelings. People get triggered, they get feelings. Now, maybe they shouldn't act on those feelings. They should count to 10 or sleep on it. But if you totally invalidate someone's feelings, that is going to go over like a lead balloon. So be careful of that.
Overgeneralizing, black and white, never, and exaggerate.
Yeah. So, if someone talks in terms of black and white, uses ridiculous examples, gives you apples and oranges examples, minimizes the problem, there's a lot of ways that you can exaggerate or just use ridiculous language. Passive aggressiveness. Now, we've talked about this before. This is like a Tampo thing. That's where a woman becomes upset with you, but won't share with you why. Now, Chrissy says if she makes you a meal, she's getting over it. But that's not really what you want. You want to be able to work through your problems with good communication that doesn't involve yelling, threats, and blaming and, black and white, things like that.
What I said before in our previous video, Filipinas, most of the Filipinas, I'm not generalizing, are more passive than direct.
Defensiveness. Well, this is what we talked about. Like when you point out that, they're using the wrong mop, or you point out that the food could be cooked better. They're not used to getting feedback. It's really weird. They're just not used to getting feedback, and they get very defensive. It's an unusual characteristic for us to deal with. So find a softer way to give your feedback. Pick your spots might be the best thing. Pick your timing.
Criticism.
You didn't read that right.
Criticism.
I'm just joking.
Criticism.
See, humor doesn't really work.
Okay. I got it. I think when you criticize them in the public, that's a big deal. But when you like correct them solely, like in private, tell them that hey, what you said this a while ago was not good. I think that's fine. But when you
excuse me, I'm interrupting. The next one is interrupting.
Interrupting, yeah, right.
Oh, we got one left, and then the big reveal. Contempt. Well, this is really difficult. If you, this is a really nasty thing.
I forgot about what's this again?
It's like stink eye, contempt. When you talk to somebody and you look down at them, and you have a very low regard for the person. It comes through in your language. People have to recognize that their body language speaks volumes, not just their words. They have to be careful about showing contempt. Okay, so we promised you about this best-selling book on marriage that was written last year. And there was one concept, and there was a terminology for it, and it is called bidding. So,
what's that?
Well, the number one sign that your relationship is at risk of failing is if the bidding system is broken. When she says, stop what you're doing, check this out, that's a bid. She's bidding for my attention. And if I stop what I'm doing and I answer the bid, this is a healthy thing in a relationship, even though I don't want to answer the bid. If I say to her, Chrissy, look at this news article in America. Oh my God, take a look at this photo. Look what happened to this politician. She's like, I could care less about politicians in America. But if she'll at least come over and stop what she's doing and look at the photo, she answers the bid. So the author of this book on marriage and relationships, who stated the number one red flag that your relationship could be in trouble is when you don't answer your partner's bids regularly. Now, there could be certain times where you just can't be interrupted. People are not happy when you don't answer their bids. And when you're in a relationship and this partner is there to care for you or cook for you, and you're there to, help them in other ways, you should try and answer their bids. And eventually, over time, they should recognize which bids are not the ones you really care about, and there'll be less of those. But a relationship that's healthy, you'll be answering each other's bids. So what's your tip? What's the advice you have about relationships, and what's been your experience? Go ahead and write to us. And if you'd like to chat with Chrissy and I, a 90-minute video consultation, you can get details in the comment box. And feel free to write us at
flymetothephilippines@gmail.com.
Till next time.
Only here from Fly Me to the Philippines. See you on our next video.